It's one of the largest stimulus measures in American history. It includes $400 billion for direct payments of $1,400 to most Americans, $350 billion in aid to state and local governments, an expansion of the child tax credit, and increased funding for vaccine distribution. Meanwhile, the United States is to double its order of the single-shot Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine. The White House says these additional 100 million doses will build up supply in a bid to inoculate the whole country.
I want to thank Speaker Pelosi and the House of Representatives today for passing the bill, and I will be signing into law shortly. This bill represents a historic victory for the American people. I look forward to signing it later this week. Everything in the American Rescue Plan addresses a real need, including investments to fund our entire vaccination effort, more vaccines, more vaccinators, and more vaccination sites.
US President Joe Biden. Let's get straight to the analysis. Keravan Gurjestani awaits. Keravan, good evening to you. $1.9 trillion, what a difference that could make. Biden campaigned, of course, on bipartisanship. I wonder how much Republican support he had in this deal.
Absolutely none. Neither in the House nor in the Senate. The way this bill was passed, basically, is that Joe Biden and the Democrats said, this is where we're starting, $1.9 trillion, take it or leave it. That was basically the extent of the negotiation. That's, of course, because Joe Biden and the Democrats have the majority. They hold the House, they hold the Senate. The only thing they had to really do in the Senate was go through this budget reconciliation process, which means that they were avoiding the filibuster and that they could go through without any Republican support with that 50-50 Senate and Kamala Harris breaking the tie. And so the bill passed in the Senate 50-49. There was a Republican senator who wasn't there. The only really big negotiation that they had was actually with one of their own, Senator Manchin, who was pushing to reduce a little bit the unemployment benefits. And that was really the extent of negotiation and the bipartisanship, if you will. And then in the House, it passed strictly almost along party lines, with just one Democrat actually voting against. So the Republicans are really extremely critical of this bill. They say, first of all, that it is too big. And second of all, they're accusing the Democrats of really using the coronavirus crisis to try to push through very progressive policies, some that are not directly linked to the pandemic. And so they're saying that, yes, you're helping Americans, but at the same time, you're doing things that are very left-leaning policies that have nothing to do with the pandemic and simply using it as an excuse. And that's why the Republicans voted against it.
I'm wondering what the general reaction is then to how the cash is going to be spent.
Well, a lot of Americans, and that was really the surprise, seeing that the Republican lawmakers didn't go for it, but the population overall is pretty supportive of this bill, including Republicans. There are a lot of Republicans who are in favor of this bill. Of course, most Americans are specifically in favor of all the direct help, direct relief to Americans economically, the $1,400 stimulus checks, the $300 weekly unemployment benefits that have been extended. They were supposed to run out this summer. They're extended through September 6th. Those are the type of things that get overwhelming support. But there are some economic experts who are saying that maybe this bill is a little bit too big. There is too much help, and that maybe that will, down the line, not help the economy as much and possibly hurt it a little bit more.
Let's move on to COVID vaccinations, Keravan. Tell us more on the latest development about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Well, Joe Biden was meeting with the executives from Johnson & Johnson and Merck, the two rival companies who have been partnered, a deal brokered a little bit by the Biden administration just about a week ago. They're working together to boost production of that Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And Joe Biden announced that the U.S. would be purchasing another 100 million doses of that single-shot vaccine. Johnson & Johnson set to distribute about 100 million doses by the end of June, and then the U.S. possibly getting that extra 100 million probably later on in the second half of the year. That's really good news, especially since vaccine rollout is getting better and better here in the United States. The latest numbers from the CDC, more than 95 million doses administered in the country and nearly 33 million people fully vaccinated. That's about 10% of the population. Joe Biden, of course, wants his goal. He wants all Americans, all adults, to be able to get a dose by the end of May if they want that vaccine. So this extra Johnson & Johnson doses are not necessarily meant for right now. He said that we don't know what will happen. We don't know how much we're going to need, and we need to be prepared. He also said that if there is any surplus, he will share it with the rest of the world. But first, he wants Americans to be fully vaccinated, and then the United States will help the rest of the world.
Sounds like a slightly different version of America First, doesn't it? But obviously in a very different context and put in a very different way. Keravan, thank you very much indeed for the explanation. Keravan Gorgisstani, our Washington correspondent.